there's sometimes in society, some, as I said earlier, are experiencing it today in other parts of the world. We have biblical examples of times when it just seems the trials that believers in Christ are called to endure seem to be all pervasive. They seem to be everywhere. There are times that maybe you and I will have to collectively go through the valley of the shadow of death. We'll have to go through difficult periods. Till that day, if it should come, I don't pray that it does, but there's no guarantee that it won't come. Till that day, may we be strengthened by Christ in the inner man by learning how faithful He is to keep us in every trial that we face today. That's what Peter was trying to teach the people of his generation. Learn to find the victory where you are so that when the greater trial comes, you will have an increased confidence in God. That the God who has kept you in the past will keep you today and will keep you tomorrow. That you have so sown in your heart those words of Jesus Christ, I will never leave you or forsake you. Elsewhere he said, in this world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome this world. Christ in me is my strength. Christ in you is your strength. He is our light. He is our hope. He's our strength. He's our song. He's our future. He's our present. He is everything that we will ever need.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another weekly news broadcast, MoCo Resistance. My name is Harold Maldonado, and today is Monday, September 11th, year of our Lord 2023. We've entitled the episode 12, Inside Job, 22 years of the fateful, dreaded attack on America on September 11th, 2001. As usual, we're going to have a game plan. We're going to talk about current events, which will be short, and then we'll dive deep into 9/11 and why we will show irrefutable proof that 9/11 was not an accident, was not an attack by Middle Eastern terrorists, that this was a plot within the U.S. government and within the same group of international criminal organizations that are set to destroy and want to destroy the country and want to create wars and basically maintain a heavy control on humanity via wars, economic hardship, debt, taxes, etc. And the same people who are basically pushing all the woke progressive ideologies like transgenderism, the fight in between genders, the fight between men and women, and women's productive rights and abortion, and all the socially constructed ideals that have divided our society. Basically, it's the same group of people who orchestrated and planned the 9/11 attacks. So we'll dig deep into proof of 9/11. But let's go ahead and start with current events. We're going to go ahead and cover Plandemic 2.0 coming to a county near you. We've introduced that notion that the occupation, the Marxist socialist communist occupation in the county, in the country, in the world, they want to put in place the second run of the Plandemic. So we'll touch on that. And also we're going to talk about how the occupation is lying about the health of the economy. And you don't have to read any news or watch any news because you already know everything's going up. So the living standards in the country are declining. And yeah, we've said this from the outset of this channel, that the Marxist occupation wants to eliminate and destroy the middle class, and they want two classes. The poor class that's dependent on government outlays, and them being at the top, controlling everyone. And then we'll talk about how the Board of Education is in full damage control in the county. And lastly, we're going to talk about something that came out this last week, which is Obama coming out. We'll jump right on the Twitter feed, and we start with Mama Bear. So she retweets a tweet from Dane where she says, "In 5 days, a new pandemic will emerge. In other words, we won't stop until you are." And Mama Bear for reposting. Post World Economic Forum. If you don't know what that is, basically it's the organization that is pushing climate change, that is pushing artificial intelligence, and that is pushing vaccines all over the world, and is pushing the green energy propaganda all over the world. So this is the group of international criminals that is basically hell-bent at making sure that reduce the population in the world, and they're the ones who pushed and orchestrated the first pandemic. And here it is, right from the horse's mouth. They have a document from their own World Economic Forum pandemic timeline projection. This is from out of their website. September 13th, that's in 2 days, the outbreak unfolds. A new pathogen, a new pandemic 2.0 starts with mutated variants of an existing virus emerging simultaneously in Western Europe, Asia, and North America. Right there. They have it in plan. Initial cases are misidentified as common seasonal illnesses due to their similarity, causing a critical delay in public health response. Sound familiar to the first pandemic? Well, from now on, we're going to call it Plandemic. Italy becomes the epicenter of the outbreak in Europe, reporting over 20,000 cases by the end of the month, overwhelming local hospitals. Spain detects the first cases of the mutated virus in its major cities, leading to concerns about its heightened transmissibility. The virus rapid spread sparks panic buying, shortages of medical supplies, and confusion among governments about how to handle the situation. Reports of unusual symptoms, including respiratory distress and neurological complications, raise alarm among medical professionals. So this is planned, this is coming, and we've told you. It's no coincidence that these international criminals want to push another pandemic just before a U.S. presidential election. So that should tell you everything you need to know in terms of what their plans are. And of course, these folks control the Democrat Party, and they are basically financing and orchestrating this all over the world. So you need to wake up. We need to reject this. We need to stay in front of this. And here's how Montgomery County is responding to this. And of course, as I've told you before, Montgomery County is part of the Marxist occupation. They're controlled by the World Economic Forum and its minions, headed by Joe Biden at the top. And then, of course, we have Westmore at the state level, and we have the county council, the boards of education, and every head of the county government is a puppet of the World Economic Forum. So let's continue. So how does this relate to Montgomery County? Well, as Clay Travis tweets, DC area elementary school, Montgomery County, Maryland, is reinstating a mask mandate, N95s, for third graders over a few kids testing positive for COVID. Here's the letter. They're coming with masks for your kids. Again, get ready. Read this insanity. So here's the letter, Rosemary Hills Elementary School. This letter was put out on September 5th, 2023, and it says, "Dear parents of students in classroom, this letter is to inform you that 3 or more individuals have tested positive for COVID-19. In the past 10 days, we're taking the following steps to keep our school environment as safe as possible for in-person teaching and learning, and to prevent further transmission of COVID-19 in this group." So again, this is happening as we said it was going to happen. We have elections coming up. They did this the first time. They're going to do this again. And other schools are going to probably follow this. We expect definitely for the Montgomery Public School system to issue a full mask mandate, which we will reject. We will fight. It's unhealthy for kids. I think parents should be allowed to have the freedom to let their kids wear or not masks, and this is unbelievable. This is tyranny. This is, I mean, if you can't see past the propaganda, I don't know what else to tell you. The masks don't work. It's been proven scientifically that masks are basically causing more harm to kids than benefit. So here we go. Changing subjects a little bit. We have the second point of current events, which is the occupation is lying to you, and this is an example. Montgomery County, Maryland, is tweets about if you have questions about our permitting process for decks. Are you serious? This is the problem with the economy in the county. We have a lot of permits. We have a lot of red tape that hinders not only individual homeowners, but it hinders businesses from all the permitting. And as I remember, there was a new county government official that was coming on board to deal with permits. And one of the council members, Fanny Gonzalez, said that she was going to work with them. Nothing as of yet. So don't expect anything. And this is just an example of how the occupation is lying to you and abusing you and squeezing every cent from homeowners, from businesses. And businesses are continuing to leave. They're continuing to stop investing in the county. And here we have Biden economics, or whatever he calls it, from Joey Rickley. So according to the Democrats, the economy is thriving, and Biden is actually doing a great job handling the economy. But you know that what the reality is. He's a joke. Here's a meme says, "I tax you." Biden taxes you, and he sends the money to Ukraine, and then they send it back to me through Hunter. I want to share with you my economic vision. So the senile old man who is basically has an IQ of less than 50. Thank you, Roy, for the tweet. There's a picture of him. It says, so Biden economics in for dummies, for in a meme, increases prices by 200, which we saw in the inflation, and drops them by 30%, and he takes credit. So we still have 170% inflation under him. A tweet from MCPS Red Pencil. He says, "I can tell you what is missing from this." Talking about the Board of Education recently coming out with a letter giving the public an update on the process, the investigation on supposed sexual misbehavior of a high school principal at Paint Branch High School, Joel Beetleman. And the letter is dated September 8th, 2023 from the Board of Education. And the letter reads, "Today, the board received an extensive report from Jackson Lewis on the first phase of the investigation into the promotion of Joel Beetleman. We are carefully reviewing the findings of that report. The report raises significant concerns about the vetting and promotion of personnel within MCPS, and the board is committed to addressing those concerns. Now that the first phase of the investigation has concluded, we will consult with the Montgomery County Inspector General and with the Maryland Inspector General for Education. As independent agencies, they are charged with determining which investigations they undertake and when they began those investigations and the scope of those investigations." And the letter ends with, "We are committed to a transparent, thorough, and expeditious process and to building a stronger, better school system." So they're in damage control. And thank you, MCPS Red Pencil. He says, "I can tell you what is missing from this: accountability, explanation, consequences. The taxpayers who paid for this report. We still don't know the scope or how much it will cost. Deserve to know what the extensive findings are. We've said this before. The Board of Education is filled with liberals, with woke, progressive, communist, Marxists. So they would protect their own. And I don't expect anything from this aside from maybe a slap in the hand, and that's it. There will be no consequences, no transparency. They will not provide any concrete documents in terms of, for instance, the first phase. Okay, the public wants to see the whole document. Where's the document? Incredible. And we have, and then to supplement this, we have a tweet from Islam RFI. Welcome back. And he says they really are going too far in trying to indoctrinate Muslim children. Look at this. Look at this filth in my daddy's belly. Okay, so this is a portrayal of a Muslim family, and story by Logan Brown talking about parents or dads being pregnant. What is wrong with these people? There are only two genders. Again, we don't have anything against the transgenderism, the gay, the lesbian community. As an adult, you live in a free country in the United States, and you can do whatever you want to do in the privacy of your home, in your life. But don't put this on kids who are focused on learning history and math and just having a normal life. Let them be kids. What do you need to push this? And we know why you want to push this. You want to push this so the World Economic Forum, right? The International Criminal Organization. Yeah, this is one of their goals too, is to legalize and normalize pedophilia. So that's coming down the pike from all the way at the top, from the Biden administration, from state government in Westmore's office, and also coming down to our neck of the woods in Montgomery County. So they want to legalize pedophilia and make it normal. So that's why they're doing this. There's no other reason. There's no other goal. That's their main objective. All right, let's continue. And this is the big kahuna news on the week. So we have, boom, Obama is gay. This gentleman who had a sexual encounter with back then Senator Obama, and a lot of this is coming out. So again, this is the time of the real awakening. This is the time where the real truth is coming out, and people are going to realize that the information, the persona, the stories behind different politicians, different public figures in entertainment and sports and politics, it's not really as clean cut as they portray them to be. So this is, again, Obama is gay. So a lot of more information is going to come out about Obama, and hopefully things will shed some light into the news and everything. So that does it for current events. And now we'll go ahead and start the beef of the episode, which is to cover 9/11 and our thesis that this was and is an inside job by the same group of people who are pushing the propaganda now to divide us, to destroy the country. And we have the Democrats and other politicians who have sold themselves out to these international criminals, and they have sold us out, basically. So, and again, thank you for listening, for watching. I know the last episodes, the episodes were long and tedious, and we apologize for that. We want to make these episodes short and sweet for you guys, but sometimes we have a lot of information. So without any further ado, let's start with 9/11. Well, now we'll turn into the main topic of the episode, which is Inside Job 9/11. We're going to start by just refreshing our minds, and I know all of us know the details of that horrible day in American history. But just to refresh, this is what we've been told by the mainstream media, that that the radical Islamist terrorists hijacked planes and took flying lessons in Florida and other places, and actually learned how to fly a big jet, big commercial planes, and that's how they got in. And they blamed Osama bin Laden and as the mastermind behind the attacks. So just to refresh, two planes hit the World Trade Center in New York. One of them, the first one at 8:46 a.m. It hit the North Tower, and the second plane hit the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. Everybody remembers where they were on that day. So as for me, I was in graduate school. My son had just been born. He was a few months old, and after this happened, I was overseas, and I wanted to join the army or the navy or anything in the military, because I felt that my duty was to protect or to go serve my country and to defend my country from these Muslim terrorists. So one plane hit the Pentagon, another plane crashed in Pennsylvania, and supposedly that plane was the terrorists, the hijackers, actually took down the plane because they were overrun by passengers who took the matters on their hand and to take control back of the plane. And lastly, the Al-Qaeda terrorist group was blamed for this attack. And again, this event was one of the biggest false flags in our country's history. And as you remember, last week we talked about false flags, and you know what that is. So we have in the county, we have false flags as in anti-Semitic attacks, violence or graffiti or language, anti-Semitic messaging. So that's a false flag, because they want to divide us. They want to make sure that we are divided and not working together to call the bluff, to call their criminality. So again, the same people who orchestrated this 9/11 are the same people who control all levers of government, from the federal, Joe Biden, to the state level and to the county. So I wouldn't be surprised if most of the council members in the county right now have have secondary citizenships, and I'll let you go ahead and decide which country they hold a passport for. Right. So what really happened? After a lot of digging, a lot of research, a lot of information, a lot of came to the conclusion that this was an inside job. I know there's been a lot of information out there, debunking anything that's not official, that doesn't follow the official line, that has been debunked as conspiracy theory. But no, as you have known since episode 1, we try our best to tell you the truth, and this is unfortunately the truth. So what really happened on 9/11? It was an orchestrated attack by our own government. Yes. It had CIA, Mossad, Pentagon, military industrial complex involvement. Globalist GOP and Democrat puppets complicit on both sides. And Mossad operative Benjamin Netanyahu is the mastermind behind this attack on the country. And you may ask yourself, what proof do you have? What information do you have? Well, we have documents, we have videos, we have this common sense. and so next we'll go into why did they do this? So as I've told you before, this international criminal syndicate, the globalists, the World Economic Forum, and all its minions. They have many objectives. When they orchestrate a false flag, they have many objectives. And okay, so why did they do this? They wanted to do this because they wanted to kick off World War III, pinning the Middle East Muslims against the West Christendom. They wanted to destroy documents that would have exposed financial crimes and treason. They wanted to create the Department of Homeland Security, and they wanted to put the U.S. in a state of war, because war is profitable. War makes money. War employs and feeds the beast of the military-industrial complex. So, and why they wanted the U.S. to be in a state of war? Because they wanted to push the Patriot Act. They wanted to remove all personal freedoms of Americans. And as everybody was shocked, we said, yes, you can do anything you want, because we want to be safe. We want our country, our children, our citizens to be safe, and you can do whatever you want in terms of surveilling us, making sure that we don't get attacked. I remember a couple of years, or a few years after that, 2001. I was overseas, came back, and actually had my siblings were in school, and I had to go to meetings in school because parents in the school were so nervous, were so scared, as everybody, because we were afraid that the terrorists, the bad terrorists, the Muslim terrorists, were going to attack and poison our water systems, etc., etc. So it reached such a level of fear that we thought about. They wanted also to stop the investigation of Pentagon missing billions. I remember the Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, the day before, he had a press conference saying that the Pentagon budget was missing millions of dollars, around 200 plus million of dollars. So they wanted to erase that. They wanted the public to forget about that as well, because if there's questions about budgeting and finances, as the saying goes, follow the money. If you follow the money where there's crime, the criminals don't want that to be made public. So, and of course, another reason why they did this was to gain total operational control, power of U.S. agencies, all of them. So Bush, Obama, Clinton working for the cabal, and I'll add Cheney to this list. So in the following, now we're going to show you some videos. I'm going to show you a video of what happened that day, of course, but with the new context in terms of, the strangeness and the peculiarities that don't make any sense, and so which adds to the to our thesis that this was an inside job. So we'll also show you videos, and then we'll provide comment before and after the video, so we can provide context for you. So without any further ado, here are the videos and the corresponding commentary.
By the afternoon of 9/11, Osama bin Laden was officially being blamed for the attacks, though a number of international figures would question the United States version of events, including Egyptian President Mubarak and General Hamid Gul, the former head of Pakistani intelligence, who stated that 9/11 was pulled off by the Israeli intelligence service. On September 16th, bin Laden officially denies responsibility on Al Jazeera television. Regardless, Bush claims he wants bin Laden dead or alive, and the CIA is dispatched to Afghanistan to bring back his head in a box. On December 13, 2001, the Department of Defense releases a videotape allegedly discovered in a house in Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden discusses the attacks, but does not take responsibility. American mainstream media and even President Bush would portray this videotape as absolute proof of his guilt, even though the translation was not conducted by a third party and was instead provided by the Department of Defense. International establishments and many others question the legitimacy of the tape.
Das Ergebnis:
Ich habe die Übersetzung des Pentagons sorgfältig überprüft. Diese Übersetzung ist sehr problematisch. Sie ist an den wichtigsten Stellen, die Täterschaft Bin Ladens beweisen sollten, nicht identisch mit dem arabischen Ton.
After 9/11, the FBI and law enforcement agencies discovered evidence conveniently pointing to the hijackers. It seems some of them were determined to leave a trail. They even managed to find hijacker Satam al-Sukami's passport, perfectly intact, on a sidewalk before the South Tower's collapse. Is it possible that the hijackers were merely patsies in a scheme much larger than themselves or Osama bin Laden?
Be careful where we stay on a loop, because these are being recorded and these tapes will be handed over. Everybody copy that? I'm glad I'm not flying today. Don't worry, Jim, we'll carjack you on the way home.
Between September 2000 and June 2001, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, would send fighter jets to intercept errant aircraft 67 times. Interceptions were routine and usually occur within 10 minutes of a sign of trouble, such as losing radio contact and transponder signal or flying off course. On September 11th, we are told that 4 commercial airliners were off course and out of communication, and not one of them could be intercepted. On the morning of September 11th, President Bush was in Florida to promote an education policy. At approximately 8:30 a.m., he left his hotel and headed for Booker Elementary School in Sarasota. Before entering the building, he was aware a plane had struck one of the Twin Towers. In fact, Bush claimed more than once that he saw the first strike live on television. This is impossible, unless President Bush saw something the public has not. Video of the first strike was not broadcast until later that evening. Minutes after Flight 175 strikes the South Tower, Chief of Staff Andrew Card leans into President Bush's ear, whispering and walking away. And President Bush continues to listen to My Pet Goat. Despite the fact that both Twin Towers had been hit and another plane was in the air and suspected to be hijacked, he remained at the school for a half hour, addressing the nation at 9:30 a.m. How could the Secret Service allow this? President Bush's itinerary had been public knowledge since September 7th. The only way Booker Elementary could not be considered a target was if the Secret Service knew for a fact that it wasn't. With that being said, September 11th was day 2 of Vigilant Guardian, an exercise staged by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and NORAD which simulated hijacked planes in the northeastern United States. It did so by placing inputs onto the screens of military controllers at the Northeast Air Defense Sector in Rome, New York, known as NEADS. As the attacks unfolded, controllers at NEADS thought that what they were watching was all part of an exercise.
Okay, guys, listen up. Possibly a second hijack. Looking for a squawk, and I don't see it.
We have smart terrorists today. They're not giving them a chance to squawk.
What are the chances that a massive hijacking war game begins on the morning of September 11th that cripples the very defense sector in which the attacks take place?
So after this first video, it is very obvious that there are a lot of questions about whether or not Osama bin Laden was the mastermind behind this. And also that it's very strange that the president didn't know or had knowledge or didn't stop his press conference. And also the military exercise on that day, it's also very suspect. Let's continue. Now we'll turn our attention into why did the World Trade Center 7 was attacked or had explosives. It has no physical bearing on how this building came crashing down. It was all explosions. It was all on purpose. Why did they do this?
It was pretty clear at one point, and then just a whole bunch of smoke and glass. And I think we're just about the last ones in this building right now. I think you should leave. Everybody else is gone. Okay. I'll just make sure that there's nobody else coming downstairs. I hear the top of the building fell down. Fell over us.
In 1984, construction began on World Trade Center Building 7, a 47-story office building 300 feet away from the North Tower. It opened to the public in 1987 and housed offices for Department of Defense, Internal Revenue Service, and was also the Secret Service's largest field office. Building 7 was considered the Central Intelligence Agency's largest station outside of Washington, D.C. The details of the office's functions remain classified. The Securities and Exchange Commission was also using the building to store 3,000 to 4,000 files related to their investigations. And, of course, they have no record of what those files were. On June 8, 1999, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani's Office of Emergency Management Command Center on the 23rd floor is opened.
The new facility is located in downtown Manhattan, across the street from the World Trade Center's Twin Towers. The command center on the 23rd floor is bulletproof and bomb-resistant, with its own air supply and generators. It's linked to city airports, the Coast Guard, and the Pentagon. Computers will soon have detailed blueprints of every major building in New York City, as well as evacuation routes. Hurricanes and heat waves would be handled here, as well as terrorist attacks. Though New York officials say their facility is not impenetrable, they're confident it could handle even the worst crisis imaginable. Deborah Fayerick for CNN, New York.
Following the collapse of the North Tower, almost all of the surrounding World Trade Center buildings were completely destroyed, but the structures remained standing. Building 3, a 22-story building directly below the Twin Towers, was split in half by the South Tower's collapse. Although the building was severely crushed by falling debris, the structure remained standing. Building 4, a 9-story building east of the South Tower, was almost completely flattened. The remaining structure did not collapse. Building 5, a 9-story building east of the North Tower, suffered from severe fires and structural damage. Building 6, an 8-story building between the North Tower and Building 7, suffered a giant gouge in its roof and severe fires. Neither Building 5 or 6 suffered a collapse. Neither did the Deutsche Bank building, which stands to this day and is currently being demolished beam by beam. Neither did the Millennium Hotel across the street. Building 7, a 47-story office building hundreds of feet away, burns controllably over a few floors and suffers structural damage to its south face before collapsing completely to the ground at near free fall speed.
Yeah, it's very strange that was not even hit by a jet, and yet it falls very rapidly and essentially straight down into its footprint.
Although the collapse of Building 7 was clearly a phenomenon and further investigation was needed, the building's steel was removed from the site and destroyed. No pieces were recovered from the debris for analysis. It's funny Stephen would mention explosives and material being removed. 2 eyewitnesses independently claimed to news channels on 9/11 that they experienced an explosion inside the lower levels of Building 7. The first one is Michael Hess, who went on to UPN 9 News around 11:59 a.m.
Oil refineries in Louisiana.
When we have Frank Uciardo back on the phone with us, Brenda, with some New York City officials. Frank, go ahead.
That's right. I'm standing here right now just off Broadway by City Hall with Michael Hess, who is the city's corporation counsel. Mr. Hess, you were trapped in, I believe, 7 World Trade Center. Go ahead, sir. Yes, I was. I was up in the Emergency Management Center on the 23rd floor, and when all the power went out in the building, another gentleman and I walked down to the 8th floor where there was an explosion, and we've been trapped on the 8th floor with smoke, thick smoke all around us for about an hour and a half. But the New York Fire Department, as terrific as they are, just came and got us out.
And the second is Barry Jennings, who went on to ABC7 shortly after noon.
We're going to bring more of those to you now. Barry Jennings, you were on the 8th floor. You work for the City Housing Department. Explain to me the moment of impact.
Well, me and Mr. Hesh, the Corporation Counsel, were on the 23rd floor. I told him we got to get out of here. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. And I turned to Hesh. I said, this is it. We're dead. We're not going to make it out of here. I took a fire extinguisher and I bust the window out. That's when this gentleman here heard my cries for help.
In conclusion, two men inside World Trade Center Building 7, a skyscraper that housed numerous government agencies whose duties are unknown to the public, are almost killed by an explosion before either of the Twin Towers fell. Although it is damaged far less than any other surrounding World Trade Center buildings, at 5:20 p.m., it collapses into its own footprint, experiencing 105 feet of freefall and barely damaging surrounding structures. And the official government report, which takes almost 7 years to write, says it was all due to fire.
So, as you were able to see, highly suspect, there were bombs from eyewitnesses, first-hand eyewitnesses. So, why did they also target this building?
Just in March of this year, we had a wonderful piece of evidence come up from Senator Carl Levin's minority report to the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, and it was a report on correspondent banks and money laundering. Now, this is a story from the Washington Post dated February 5th. It says, inattention and disinterest by U.S. banks in screening the foreign banks they take as clients has allowed rogue foreign banks, not rogue, and their criminal clients to carry on money laundering and other criminal activity in the United States and to benefit from the protections afforded by the safety and the soundness of the U.S. banking industry, said Senator Carl Levin of Michigan. Specifically mentions J.P. Morgan Chase on the next page. 4,000 offshore banks to launder money into the United States. $1 trillion laundered annually. That's conservative. Money laundered in which the Clinton administration declared a national security threat. Not true. It's a national asset as far as Wall Street is concerned. Carl Levin said $500 billion moved through the U.S. banking system in drug money every year. That's liquid cash. And you want to know how important liquid cash in this world? There's a saying. One of my dear friends and colleagues and mentor, Catherine Austin Fitz, is a former Assistant Secretary of Housing. She was a managing director of Dillon Reed on Wall Street. She says cash flow is everything. And in an economy that's on the verge of a major implosion, without cash flow, the crash is guaranteed. Now, CIA's role is to make sure that as much of that drug money comes through the U.S. economy as possible.
When I was a little girl, I grew up at 48th and Larchwood in West Philadelphia, and the Solari index was 100%. The Solari index is the index that I use to describe the well-being of a neighborhood. It's the percent of people in a neighborhood who believe that a child can leave their home, go to the nearest place to buy a popsicle, and come home alone safely. It was unthinkable that a child wasn't safe at 48th and Larchwood in West Philadelphia in the 1950s. The Solari index was 100%, and the Dow Jones index was probably about 500. Today, it's reversed. The Dow Jones index is very high at about 10,000, and the Solari index is at very low in West Philadelphia and very low throughout the United States. And why is that? It's because one of the ways that we've financed the growth of multinational corporations and big banks and the rise of the Dow Jones is by selling narcotics to our children. It's one of the most profitable businesses in America. About a year ago, I gave a speech called How the Money Works in Organized Crime to a wonderful group of people in Philadelphia. They have a conference every year. They go off into the woods for about 3 days and talk about how they can help our culture, our world spiritually evolve. So I gave my presentation on how the money works as organized crime, describing what is arguably the biggest, most profitable industry in the United States today. And towards the end, we were discussing the fact that the Department of Justice estimates that the United States is the leader in laundering organized crime profits of about $500 billion to $1 trillion a year. So I asked the audience, what would happen if we stopped being the worldwide leader in laundering $500 billion to $1 trillion a year? And they said, well, you know, if we stopped, our mutual funds would go down in price, the stock market would crash. I said, well, what else would happen? So they said, well, you know, we might have trouble financing the government deficit because, in fact, the people who control 50 years of accumulated profits, that's a lot of capital that we need to finance our deficit. So I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's pretend there's a big red button right up here on the lectern right in front of me. And if you push that button, you can stop all organized crime in America, and you can stop America laundering $500 billion to $1 trillion of organized crime profits every year. Who here will push the button? And out of 100 people, only one person would push the button. And I said, okay, so what you're saying is you want a whole armada of people to sell drugs to your children and grandchildren to keep your mutual funds up and your government checks coming. And they said, yes, that's right.
So the SEC had documentation on the investigation of money laundering, and all the documentation was in the World Trade Center 7. So that's why they blew it up. Very simple. Now we'll turn our attention into what interference or what actions did the Israeli intelligence Mossad have on this day.
I'm going to take you to Dick Cheney. Fasten your seatbelt, and this is going to absolutely blow you away. I would like you, if you can do this on your computer, to go to methodicaldeception.com. And when you open that up, on the navigation bar, you'll see where it says resources, and you'll want to click on that resources. And then there's a big box that says about the Israeli art students at the World Trade Center. Click here. Click on that and tell me when you get to that page that has some photographs, because This is the elephant in the room that nobody wanted to talk about. And this is one of the documents, a 61-page DEA document that I went over and over and over and connected Israeli Mossad bomb experts to an art group that were traveling around the United States and to an art group that gave themselves the name of Gelatin. So are you there?
I'm there.
So you got those pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to take you to Dick Cheney. Just listen up. You're looking at those pictures. Those are some Israeli art students that came from a foreign country, and their art project was called B Thing. They called their team the Gelatin Group. And just so you understand this, gelatin is often referred to gelignite or blasting gelatin. It's also referred to as blasting jelly, but gelatin, and they later on changed their name because people started waking up to this. So they named their name Gelatin. They called their art project the B Thing, and you will see on the left-hand side a photograph of the title page of their book. And what the B Thing was, there was a group called the Lower Manhattan Cultural Center that was renting the 91st floor or allowed to live on the 91st floor. These foreign art students, and some of them were connected to a group of traveling art students that were all over the country that the DEA found out about because they were going door to door to some of their agents' homes and their offices. And some of the offices were not public locations. So they were like, who are these people? There's Israeli students trying to sell us art. This was just a smokescreen. So you wouldn't go to where we're about to go. Now, the guy in the pink shirt, he's on the top right-hand side.
Yep.
Kind of a pink shirt on. He has repelling gear on.
Yeah.
They removed a window. This was their art project. They put a wooden balcony out, and they had photographs taken via a helicopter that was rented by their sponsor from the Lower Manhattan Cultural Center. And that particular gentleman also had a big party to celebrate this event, and he rented part of the top floors of the Millennium Hotel. You'll remember that from 9/11, and who was there, the Bush relative, and took pictures and had a big champagne party watching this. Okay, look behind the gentleman in the pink shirt. You're going to see two big bold numbers. It says BB18. Those are fuse holders. Now look at all three pictures and look at how many boxes of plastic fuse holders that can be used for remote control demolition. And ask yourself, why would art students from Israel and Austria be having thousands of fuse holders? This building was built in the early 1970s. They weren't electricians. They weren't redoing all of the electricity in that building. Think about this. Okay, so I get this book out, I'm waiting for my shipment of books to show up, and I literally had a voice say to me, look into this. Those fuses, by the way, come from a company called Littel Fuse, Littel Fuse Company. They're located in Chicago. And some little voice said to me, take a look into this Littel Fuse Company, where all of those fuse holders behind those artists are. And now some of those artists are guaranteed Mossad bomb experts. And that's in the DEA document that you can read. So I find out that Littel Company is a subsidiary of a corporation called Tracor, Tracor. Now, Tracor, they went bankrupt and split their company. They were a government contractor. They split them off into Tracor Aviation, Littel Fuse, and Tracor Defense Holdings. They're based in Austin, Texas. They were bought out by Westmark Systems. Bobby Ray Inman was the chairman of Westmark at a point. Then Westmark kind of started losing it, and Tracor bought them back. Tracor bought out a company called Vitro, which used to be the Kellex Company. Let me tell you about Kellex Company. The Kellex Corporation was a wholly owned subsidiary of M.W. Kellogg, as in cereal. You know that guy, Kellogg? company, Kellex, was formed in 1942 so Kellogg's operation relating to the Manhattan Project could be kept separate and secret, Kel meaning Kellogg and X meaning secret. The new company's goal was to design a facility for the production of enriched uranium through a gaseous diffusion technique. In gaseous diffusion, isotopes of uranium-235 could be separated from uranium-238 by turning uranium metal into uranium hexafluoride gas and straining it through a barrier material. Now, this is kind of interesting too, so for those of you who remember that originally the first responders were getting calls that there was a missile launched from the Woolworth building. The newly formed Kellex company's original headquarters were in the Woolworth building in Lower Manhattan. I know, it's just another coincidence, isn't it? They later on moved to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. But now, the Kellex company, you will know them today. Here we are, fasten your seatbelts, as Halliburton.
Dick Cheney's old company.
There you go. I told you I was going to take you to Dick Cheney.
So our thesis that Benjamin Netanyahu and Mossad had a direct hand in organizing and orchestrating this is right there. You just saw the proof of that. Now we'll turn our attention to what happened in Pennsylvania.
(10:03 a.m., Shanksville, Pennsylvania). United Airlines Flight 93 allegedly crashes into an abandoned strip mine at 580 miles per hour, 20 minutes flying time from Washington, D.C. Speculation ran rampant that the plane had been shot down. First, the story was that passengers overtook the plane and sacrificed themselves to prevent further casualties. The 9/11 Commission eventually concluded that hijacker Ziad Jarrah crashed the plane into the ground. They also claimed that the military did not know about Flight 93 until 10:07 a.m., 4 minutes after it had allegedly crashed. So, what trace was left of Flight 93? As for the crash site itself, from the Somerset County coroner to the mayor of Shanksville, almost every eyewitness would remark how little of the plane and its passengers remained at the actual crash site.
We have rescue vehicles that came in earlier in the day and they have turned up nothing. No one believed to be alive from this crash within the last hour. I want to get quickly to Chris Kanicki. He's a photographer with the Pittsburgh affiliate of Fox affiliate. He was back there just a couple of minutes ago, and Chris, I've seen the pictures. It looks like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees. We could see some people walking around in the area, but from where we could see, there wasn't much left.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
Smoke, fire?
Nothing. It was absolutely quiet. It was actually very quiet. Just a couple of people walking around. They looked like part of the NTSB crew walking around looking at the pieces.
How big would you say that hole was?
From my estimates, I would guess it was probably about 20 to 15 feet long and probably about 10 feet long or 10 feet wide.
What could you see on the ground, if anything, other than dirt and ash? And
you couldn't see anything. You could just see dirt, ash, and people walking around, broken trees.
There is zero historical precedent for a large commercial airplane and its passengers completely disintegrating upon impact, regardless of speed, cause, or crash site. What really happened near Shanksville, Pennsylvania on 9/11 remains a mystery. But one thing seems clear. A 757 did not crash intact into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
There's your proof that the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was not a plane. It was something else, and the official story is again debunked. And now we'll turn our attention into what hit the Pentagon. It was a Scud missile. It was not a plane. And also you'll see videos, 2 videos on the explosions on the towers. And as you will see, there are no planes. So this is irrefutable evidence that the narrative that the government has tried to push for over 20 years is a lie. This was an inside job by our own government, by the help with the help of CIA, FBI, Mossad, and the military-industrial complex. So there you have it. Irrefutable proof that 9/11 was an inside job and created or orchestrated and planned by enemies of the country, treasonous individuals who are part of the political establishment, who at the behest of the international criminal syndicate created all the necessary conditions in order for us to be attacked, and then lied to us, saying that these attacks were perpetrated by Islamic terrorists. They are terrorists, but in this case, it wasn't Osama bin Laden, it wasn't Al-Qaeda, and everything you have heard in the last 22 years about 9/11 is a lie. So I hope this information was helpful. Please share these far and wide. And again, the same people who are running the county council, the same people who are running our state, and the same people who are running our country right now belong to the same people or the same group of people who orchestrated, planned, and executed 9/11. So keep that in mind. And also our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who lost loved ones on that horrible day. And we ask you to do the same. Please share these far and wide. We need to get this information out so people can increase their awareness of what's going on. They can be ready for any misinformation that comes out of the mainstream media or the government. And as you know, Plandemic 2.0 is in the works, so expect that coming along anytime soon. So thanks again for listening, for watching. Follow us at Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to our channels in YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram. Join us. Join the resistance.
You know, there's sometimes in society, some, as I said earlier, are experiencing it today in other parts of the world. We have biblical examples of times when it just seems the trials that believers in Christ are called to endure seem to be all pervasive. They seem to be everywhere. There are times that maybe you and I will have to collectively go through the valley of the shadow of death. We'll have to go through difficult periods. Till that day, if it should come, I don't pray that it does, but there's no guarantee that it won't come. Till that day, may we be strengthened by Christ in the inner man by learning how faithful He is to keep us in every trial that we face today. That's what Peter was trying to teach the people of his generation. Learn to find the victory where you are, so that when the greater trial comes, you will have an increased confidence in God. that the God who has kept you in the past will keep you today and will keep you tomorrow. That you have so sown in your heart those words of Jesus Christ, I will never leave you or forsake you. Elsewhere he said, in this world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome this world. Christ in me is my strength. Christ in you is your strength. He is our light. He is our hope. He's our strength. He's our song. He's our future. He's our present. He is everything that we will ever need